Les résultats escomptés déserta, une forme urbaine plus compacte, une accessibilité accrue aux transports en commun, une diminution importante des gaz à effet de serre, une optimisation des investissements publics et une protection des milieux naturels et agricoles.
Donc, le défi du TOD, c'est réussir à influencer le reste de la ville et comment le reste de la ville va être requalifié, va se redévelopper pour que dans l'avenir, à moyen ou long terme, l'ensemble de la ville puisse avoir recours à un transport en commun comme cela aura été le cas avec un TOD. Un TOD réussi, c'est celui qui ne sera pas construit seul dans le champ, isolé du reste du monde. C'est un TOD qui va être connecté à la ville existante. C'est un quartier qui bénéficie d'une bonne desserte en transport en commun, mais non seulement une desserte en transport en commun métropolitaine, c'est-à-dire qu'il se rend au centre de l'agglomération, mais une desserte en transport en commun local. C'est un quartier qui va bénéficier d'un cœur fort. Ça peut être un centre commercial, on s'entend, c'est des activités, des commerces de proximité, ça peut être des services, ça peut être des équipements publics ou culturels, une école, mais quelque chose qui va rassembler la communauté autour d'un événement, autour d'un équipement, autour d'une raison, un lieu de rassemblement, un espace public. Ensuite, c'est une ville, un TOD, c'est une ville qui est faite à distance de marche, une ville des courtes distances. Donc, tout doit pouvoir se faire à pied, même si on ne le fait pas nécessairement à pied, la possibilité doit être là. Et aussi, c'est un quartier où tout le monde a la possibilité de vivre, ce qui implique plusieurs types d'habitations, des logements accessibles pour différents revenus, différentes tailles, différentes configurations, tout
Well, the Roslyn-Ballston corridor is really a project that goes back decades. It was originally conceived by people working in Arlington in the 1960s and 70s when they were first looking at building a metro system. People here in Arlington thought, no, we could do something better, and had the idea to put stations close enough together that there were walkable distances. So they're on half-mile centers, which means you're not more than a quarter mile or a short walk from any metro station when you're within that corridor of 5 stations. And this was the broad idea, early on, of people who understood the idea of transit-oriented development back before it was fashionable or before really anybody was talking about it in this country, at a time when people were really moving toward cars being the only way people were going to travel in the United States. Of course, there are a lot of things that are involved in making a corridor like this work and making it successful. But I always say there are sort of 3 big things you got to get right first. The first one is having density near the station, and near means really what are you doing in the first quarter mile. One of the things we know is that about 75% of the people who are going to use a station are going to be within the first quarter mile. The second thing is getting mix of uses. So not just places for people to live, residential places, not just office space and businesses, but a mix of them, so that you have people who are coming to a station in the morning because there are places to work there, and you have people who are leaving in the morning also because they live there and they're going somewhere else, and the same thing in the evening. Otherwise, you have the pattern of everybody moving in one direction in the morning and the other direction in the evening, and you're wasting half the station, basically. And the third element is what could be called broadly urban design, but it's basically about walkability. The place has to be designed for people to walk. If it isn't walkable, it's not transit-oriented.
The sprawl that we have did not occur purely as a result of personal preference. It was very much a planned phenomenon. It was planned by governments. There was redlining of inner city areas. There was freeway building. There was coding, massive coding. So the idea that this has all happened as a result of consumer preference is simply not supported by the evidence. Well, one of the things that we've learned from this project was that our hunches about the market supporting this kind of community have been proven to a degree that was beyond our wildest imagination. There was a very strong demand for this kind of community. People do want to get out of their cars. They want to live in more walkable places, places with more amenities close by. One of the things that I think we've been struggling to do is to integrate more with the surrounding area, and particularly this arterial that is still very, very busy, and to try to sort of tame that and make that more walkable and integrate more of this kind of development. I would say that's a big challenge. The other one is just how do you get more of a sort of evolutionary, fine-grained pattern. You know, we had one big home builder here. It would be great to have a number of smaller home builders and more diversity and so on.
Le TOD peut être voué à l'échec si effectivement les mesures pour encadrer la croissance sur les autres parties du territoire, c'est-à-dire hors TOD, ne sont pas suffisamment efficaces, ne sont pas assez fortes. D'abord et avant tout, si on veut atteindre les objectifs métropolitains, il faut penser beaucoup plus large que le TOD, parce que la ville existante, c'est un territoire beaucoup plus grand que le simple TOD, qui lui, normalement, se fait dans un rayon de marche de 800 mètres. Les villes existantes, elles sont là. Il y a des gens qui y habitent dans des bâtiments qui existent déjà, avec autour ou d'activités qui sont déjà implantées, puis ils vont continuer à prendre leur voiture. La réussite des TOD passe par ce qu'on va faire en dehors des TOD, c'est-à-dire de la façon dont on va réussir à contraindre la croissance sur le reste du territoire.
The important thing to remember is it's not ultimately about the transit. You know, it's not ultimately about the station. I mean, that's one element, and it makes it possible to do other things. But you're really trying to create a great place. And when you're successful and you've been at it long enough, you'll have a lot of people living and working in an area that aren't actually using the station. You know, they're there because they can live near where they work, and they're walking to a lot of things. They're not using the station all the time. But the station is what made it possible. But to do that, you got to get all the elements correct.